Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. We're back after 2 weeks off because my internet decided to go down last week, and that was after Elliot and I tried to postpone everything because we were sure that was going to make everything work, and then just no. Anyway, we're back. How you guys doing? Brecklyn, It's good to see you again. Why don't you update our loyal followers with what's going on in your life?
Thank you. Yeah, I actually still exist. Not very many people know that anymore. But I'm happy to say that because I was able to take a few, weeks off from everything, I will now be graduating with my honors this Sunday. So all paid off. I'm moving into a new apartment currently. Thank you. But yeah, different backdrop today. Hopefully we'll have some kind of fun stuff up here by next week. But right now we've got half bathroom moved into this place. So baby steps.
It kind of looks like a hostage video, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of, especially
proof of life. You need to hold up a newspaper so that you can prove that this is live and not something that was pre-recorded and that you're actually dead.
Yeah.
Anything with the current date, Brecklyn?
What? Anything with the current date?
Yeah. Prove that this is live. Prove that you are alive.
That I am alive here. I can do that. I have a Sharpie right here. Let's see if it's going to show the opposite of what it is. But we've got the date.
Cubs sucks. 5/16/19.
There we go.
Nice try. Unfortunately, Cubs are in. I don't know if you had noticed it. You've been kind of out of it. Cubs are in first place, dear.
I don't like thinking about it. I'm still in denial. I went to the Hamlet of blissful denial.
Well, you can deny it all you want, but they have a 1-game lead on the Brewers and a 3.5-game lead on the Cardinals. They haven't lost a series since the beginning of April, but of course, in true baseball's gonna baseball fashion, they are right now trailing the Reds and in danger of losing their first series since April 7th to the Cincinnati Reds, the woeful Cincinnati Reds.
What is it with the Reds and just being able to teach everyone a lesson when we don't want them to?
I don't know. Honestly, the Reds pitching, I think, is outperforming what people expected. And I don't know. I've got it on in the corner here, and it's just taunting me. The funny thing is, Elliot and I were talking about this offline, and hopefully Elliot is able to join us a little bit later on. He was surprised by his dad. Daddy Dewey showed up out of nowhere. And so Elliot doesn't know when he'll be done, but if he wraps up sometime soon, he's promised he'll join us.
I'm sure he has all kinds of. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Elliot and I were talking about it offline earlier in the week, and we were saying that the Central Division is pretty much the only division, at least in the NL, that has turned out to be exactly what everyone expected. The AL East is terrible. And yet the Braves are handing it to the Cardinals. So
another thing I didn't want you to bring up, you're just really hitting all those topics today.
You know what? You've been out of it for so long. I figured that it was much better to just throw you into the deep end. We don't need to go this shallow end, dip your toe kind of stuff. It's time to bring you back up to speed right away. And Brecklyn, right now, it's 10-2 in the top of the ninth. So, and Aaron Mullins is apparently going to lose his shit if Luke Gregerson is on the team any longer, because he gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning today. Hey, but at least he threw 12 strikes out of 19 pitches, so that's looking on the bright side.
Wasn't the deal with that we sent Tyler O'Neill down to bring Gregerson up?
I don't know.
Something like that. I think so, because I think I remember the pain that it caused me when I read that update.
Have you gotten over it? Are you okay?
Maybe. I don't know. It just kind of is like brewing in the pit of my stomach. We'll see. Maybe once I'm able to actually sit down and watch a game again.
What are you going to do if Tyler O'Neill comes back and he's dyed his hair blonde?
I mean, he can do what he wants.
I know, but you don't like blondes.
I know. It'll just have to be a sacrifice that I have to make.
All right.
That's all right. No, I'm not. Dexter Fowler seems to be doing pretty well recently from
Dexter
the
Fowler's
updates I've been able to see.
Yeah, Dex for MVP. I think that's a trending hashtag, isn't it? Or
I don't know.
Be?
When I say that I've been out of it, I mean like I don't know where my deodorant is kind of out of it. Like
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, deodorant's totally overrated.
I know plenty of people, especially those in my general vicinity, that would disagree with that sentiment.
Wait, but you're a girl. Women don't sweat; they glisten. Right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, we don't sweat. We sparkle. There you go.
Sparkle. Ooh. That's even better than glistening. So you're trying to get back into the groove with the cards now that all the hard work is over with. I know you had mentioned before we came on that you had a couple little tweaks to your thesis that still needed to be done. But what does the immediate future hold for you? Are you going to be able to catch more on the Cardinal side of things, or have you got a job? Bring everybody up to speed. Come on, you're the one fighting young person life.
So I will be able to catch back up on some of the Cardinals games. I'm hoping to. I'm actually trying to get a TV set up right now. I wanted to have the Cardinals game off in the distance, so that way I could see a little bit of what was going on. But after my ceremony on Sunday, which is when I officially graduate, I should have at least a week or two where I'll be able to just sit down, watch some games, scroll on Twitter, get mad about it, not look at Twitter for a few more days, come back inevitably.
We're looking forward to that.
It'll be good. Yeah, I'm excited. I have felt bad not being able to share all my takes. It's been sad being away.
Well, we understand. It's what happens when you're a last semester senior.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll have to cross our fingers enough for that I will continue with school, everything like that. So,
Very good.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
So we need to get your take here because I think that this requires specialized knowledge. Within the last 2 weeks, since the last time that Ron and I were briefly on the show. So really, you think about it, we haven't had a proper show in 3 weeks.
Weird.
In the last 2 weeks, Cubs called up Addison Russell. Your thoughts?
So I was able to listen to the short sound clip of what it sounded like when Addison Russell took his first at bat back. I don't know if it's bad for me to say, but it warmed my soul to just hear all the boos. I've made my thoughts clear on previous shows. I don't want him there. I don't want him anywhere near any team I even vaguely care about, but I don't know really what else to say about it at this point. I'm not happy about it, but they're obviously going to do whatever they want, so just kind of bite your lip and deal with it, I guess. That sounds awful.
Now, here's a question for you. Do Melissa Reedy's comments since his call-up on people booing Addison Russell and some of the some of the blowback he's been receiving, do they have any effect on your reaction? Because she's basically said, people need to back off. That obviously he's not my favorite person in the world, but they need to back off. He's working through something, and I believe that he's trying to be a better person. And it's part of the process. People constantly booing him and ripping on him is not helping things.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of those comments. And the first things that I think of with that is that if there is a genuine effort that somebody's trying to get better, I mean, that's something that should be respected. But at the same time, I don't know. It's hard to be a fan of baseball and then to see a baseball player and then comment on a personal life, with things like, well, I don't see any evidence that he's getting better or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But what we do know is that it's happened, and it was to the point, from what we've heard from things, which once again, it's the separation between personal life and, baseball. And the only reason why I think it's okay that we have comments on that is because it was such an extreme type of thing that did cause harm. And because of the role model position that, players are in because of this, we do know that it happened, or at least that's, he was punished for it. So that's what we can, we know that it happened. And people are going to have very strong opinions about that. They're going to want to express their feelings on it. Miss Reedy coming out and saying, you know what, he's trying his best. He's really trying hard. I respect that she made those comments. Keep in mind, I just heard about it when you just told me that.
Mm-hmm.
But is it because she does still care for him? I mean, they were married. They had a kid. No matter what happens in those situations, I mean, sometimes, especially with the direction that she was taking when she had the post initially, she wasn't necessarily wanting any harm to cause to him based on what she said. So it would make sense that she would say that and she would want people to back off of him. But when you're a person who is capable of harming other people like that, I don't feel any guilt in people booing you when you go up to play a kid's game. I took a long time saying that, but...
No, it's fine. You think he deserves a second chance?
Personally, I would say not with the Cubs. I would say if some other team took a look at him and said, yeah, we believe that you would be able to represent our team in a positive way, then maybe. This is something I would have to think more on. But I think when you have that egregious of an error in your personal life, that there should be a clear point of, no, that's not okay, with the Cubs or with MLB or with anything. And yeah, there was a suspension, but at what point does things become a slap on a wrist if you just allow them to come back as though nothing happened? People who are new to baseball a few years down the road, are they going to know that it happened? Or should it be a mark on his record saying, yeah, he was on the Cubs, but then these things came out and now he plays for fill in the blank here? I think that with something like that and how serious it was, an entirely new leaf should be forced to be turned over. But, that's my very split second thoughts. I could think on it for an hour or two more and have something different for you, but that's what I have initially.
Yeah, I get that. I do. And, I'm torn. We talked about it a lot back in the fall. And then obviously throughout the winter. I think it's hard. It would be hypocritical for me to say that he doesn't deserve a second chance when so many other domestic battery cases, domestic abuse cases that were far more substantiated in that there were police records, there were arrests made, that kind of thing. And those players were given second chances. I think it would be, it'd be hypocritical of me to say, it can be hypocritical of baseball to say, no, Addison Russell is where we're going to draw a line in the sand and say no more. Particularly because those other players, people like Aroldis Chapman, like Roberto Osuna, are still playing baseball. I think it's difficult to suddenly draw the line. I think if you're going to do something like that, it needs to happen in the off season so that going forward, everybody knows that there are new rules that are being played under. And I think the difficult thing too is that this is something that the union has negotiated. And so you can't avoid those consequences. Everybody knows what those are, and you can't deviate from those because it is a contract. So if Major League Baseball or the Cubs was to deviate from that, the union would have serious cause for a grievance, and I think that Addison Russell would win a grievance if he did grieve it. I also am sympathetic to what's come out a lot in Chicago media in the last couple of days, actually about the last week, in collaboration with the Cubs, that the Cubs are apparently making a pretty serious effort to change the culture within their organization. And it's not just limited to the players, that everybody in the organization, front office, office staff, the players, trainers, everyone is going through domestic violence training. Not only to seek their own help if they're involved, but also to recognize the signs that somebody else may be engaged in it or suffering from it. And so it seems to me, anyway, from what I'm reading, that this is something that's genuine from the Cubs, and that is part of their rationale for keeping Addison Russell on the team, is because they feel a duty to him, to Melissa, to the Chicago community to do more. And I know there have been a lot of people who have said that they don't see what the Cubs are doing, so they don't know how sincere it is. I don't know. That doesn't carry a lot of weight for me, because some of the most effective work that is done in the world, in the community, is not necessarily work that's done within the public view. Is done for a reason. I mean, I don't know. If they were making a big deal out of it, I would think it was even less genuine. If they were like, "Oh, look at all the stuff that we're doing. Look here, look at us." I don't know. That for me,
that's true.
That doesn't play. That comes across to me as we're doing what we're doing in order to just do enough so that people will get off of our backs. And the fact that they're not making a big deal out of it, to me anyway, seems more genuine.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, so the way when looking at that, if they are going through the training and everything like that, I do understand the argument of, oh, well, we don't see it, we don't know what's there, so we don't know. But rather than saying we don't know, so therefore it doesn't exist, I'm always one to give the benefit of the doubt. I mean, maybe this is just me being overly positive, but if we don't know a whole lot about it, then who's to say that it's not happening? That's something where they're trying to, put their house in order. And a lot of times when you're doing that, especially when you have a team that's so close that, these guys who play with you end up being like family, sometimes it needs thing and not something to where everybody's asking tons of questions about every little detail. You got to come together and take care of it yourself. And so to me, that's not an issue. I completely agree with what you're saying of if they were calling tons of attention to it, that would almost seem even more suspicious. So it's something that perhaps near the end they, had a bigger statement about it, something like that, just to, show some type of growth. I don't know what that would look like. That would be something where it's not necessarily a publicity stunt, but rather just raising awareness. Perhaps, showing or giving different resources for things, saying, this is what this, where you could go or who you could turn to if this is something that's going on. That would be a different case. So I agree mostly with what you were saying there. The idea of baseball being hypocritical if they were to suddenly draw the line at Addison Russell, you're right. That's a difficult thing to tackle, because on one hand, do we really need permission to start punishing people who hurt others? I would like to say no. I would like to say that if we finally decide, like, okay, enough is enough, you can't harm other people and then still be seen as a role model by the public through our organization, through, MLB in general, I would be all for that. But it would be difficult, especially when you're discussing the different contracts, where Addison Russell's going to say, well, why did you start with me? Where did this go on? So it would be a wiser move to start in the off season. It's just that difficult line where I don't want to see more people get away with these type of actions, but where would be the best time to implement it? So I know I didn't build too much off of your comments, but it's sticky. I don't like any of it.
I think we're going to have a really interesting test, because the Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias, I think I pronounced it right, Urias, was arrested at the beginning of the week for a domestic violence incident at the Beverly Center Mall in LA. So this is not a rumor. This is not an Instagram post. This is not a meeting with Major League Baseball. This is an actual arrest. So there is going to be police documentation, and since it was at a mall in one of the most heavily surveilled cities in the nation, there's going to be video. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this from the Dodgers, from Major League Baseball and from the armchair quarterbacks who were ready to light Addison Russell on fire. I'll be watching this one closely.
See, that would be, I mean, where we're talking about walking the line, that would be I would say an acceptable place to then draw the line and say, okay, from here on out, and then create new stipulations saying if there's an accusation, if it's something that, we find substantiated in any way other than public comments that this happened, then it's over. I mean, when you have something like a police report, like an actual arrest, that's grounds of saying, okay, we definitely know this, and gives the opportunity for new things to come about.
Could be.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll really be interested to see what the union's reaction to it is. Although we'll probably never know because they're going to do most of their work behind the scenes. So,
yeah.
Well, turning from one pleasant domestic situation to yet another unpleasant one, Cubs news this week, and then we'll get to the Cardinals, I promise. Ben Zobrist has been away from the Cubs for, I think it's almost 2 weeks now. He's been on the restricted list with no timetable for return, and it came out. It's leaked out throughout the week that he and his pop star, quote unquote pop star wife, Juliana Zobrist, are getting a divorce. She filed for divorce here in Cook County earlier in the week, and today it got out and was confirmed that earlier, I think last week maybe it was, that Ben had filed for a declaration of separation in Tennessee. The difference being that Illinois is a no-fault state. So all you have to do is say, I want a divorce. You don't have to give reasons for it, and they decide. Tennessee is a fault state. And Ben cited as his reason for the legal separation that I forget what the exact term of art was, but that Juliana's been sleeping around.
Oh.
So, and where that comes into play, obviously, in a fault state is it weighs on the settlement agreement, and it also weighs on custody. So Ben trying to get ahead of things, and that would explain why he obviously that's why he missed part of spring training. Now you start to put things together. That's why he missed part of spring training at the beginning of the year. Obviously, things started to come to a head, and they must have gone into counseling for a while. And now, obviously, it's come too far. I can be very serious on this one because obviously 3 of the 4 hosts on this program have previous experience with failed marriages. But I'd rather not. I'd rather be snarky. What the hell? What the hell is Juliana Zobrist thinking? Does she really think that? I mean, this is a dumb move for her career, right?
True.
She gets played at least 3 times a game when Ben starts because he uses her Benny and the Jets cover as his walk-up music. So that's good. Nobody cares who she is. Yes, I know she had a song chart in 2016. She was married to a guy who won the World Series. He was the World Series
2016
MVP. Nobody would know who Juliana Zobrist was if she wasn't married to Ben Zobrist. So from a strictly business standpoint, this is so dumb. What were you thinking, woman?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, because you guys were sending messages in our chat talking about, this news, and I didn't know who she was to begin with.
Exactly. So. I think the only people who knows who she is are Tampa Bay Rays fans, Kansas City Cubs fans, and Cubs fans. That's pretty much it.
And Cubs fans.
I don't think
and that's if they look into the details.
I don't think anybody else knows who Ben Zobrist's wife is.
Nope. To be honest with you, I wrote down her name on my little piece of paper here so that way I would make sure not to forget it if I referenced her later on. That's how well known she is.
He was only with Oakland for 67 games in 2015, so you know that they don't know who he is.
No.
They don't care. I'm sorry, not Ben, but they don't know who Juliana is. So, I mean, from a business standpoint, dumb.
I mean, yeah.
And then
I wish I had more comments on that, but it's just like, why? There's not anyway.
infidelity just.
But then again, if we were married to somebody where we got to go to all the baseball games, that'd be pretty cool. That's a dumb move. You just lost all your tickets.
Okay, Aaron Mullins with the line of the night. The guys she's sleeping with don't even know who she is. Well done, Aaron.
Obviously.
That is brilliant. I tell you, this obviously this explains Ben's slow start to the beginning of the season. He clearly has had other things on his mind, and he has not been focused on baseball. So, not picking sides on this, but go get her, Ben. Fuck that bitch.
Yep, I'm agreeing with that.
All right, so let's talk some baseball. Aaron providing us with a good topic to discuss. What are your thoughts on Madison Bumgarner having both the Cardinals and Cubs on his no-trade list? Aaron thinks he clearly wants his choice of where he goes, but do we think that St. Louis or Chicago makes a move for him? Brecklyn, the Cards pitching has not been all it was cracked up to be in spring training. So what do you think? Is Madison Bumgarner the move you make to fix things?
So remember how I was talking about being optimistic earlier? That's funny. Let's talk about the Cardinals, where hardly anything is optimistic when it comes to money or trading. I think that the most star power, because I know the name Madison Bumgarner, I'm learning a lot more names in baseball, but I'm still new enough where if I know your name, it means that you've done something right. And since I know his name, the Cardinals aren't going to go after him because we already got Paul Goldschmidt. And that's about it for the season. Maybe I'm ignorant. I can have a bunch of people yell at me, but from a very outsider's viewpoint, that's all I've got for it.
Yeah, I tell you, I agree, but for an additional reason, and that's that he is not the Madison Bumgarner who made the name that you know. This is not Madison Bumgarner of the 10, 12, 14 San Francisco Giants, who was, arguably the best pitcher in baseball, and who was nails in the playoffs. This is a guy who has lost some of his velocity, has lost some of his stuff. He's still a good pitcher, and he would be a solid addition to the middle of the rotation. But I agree. I don't see the Cardinals giving up what I think it would take to get him, because if the Giants are selling, they're selling in the hopes of rebuilding quickly. And so you're not going to be able to give them a bunch of A-ball prospects with really high ceilings. You're going to have to give them some guys that they can plug in, if not this year, next year.
Well, that too. And I think that we're just going to keep pulling from our AAA team, which I don't have too much problem with. I think that we have a lot of talent throughout our entire farm system. My faith is lost just a little bit because Luke Gregerson's name has entered back into my life, which wasn't something that I wanted. So until I start seeing more improvements beyond the looking at the screen and going, why is he in here? Then I'll start believing more in some of those positive changes. What about you? What are you thinking for the Cubs?
I don't, everybody has been paying attention to the Cubs offense. And with justification. But I think that what has really keyed the Cubs' hot streak of late has been their pitching getting straightened out, in particular their starting pitching. Their starting pitching finally came around and realized the potential that it had. And I think that has changed everything for the Cubs, because when they have starters who can go 6-7 innings, that means that you don't have to pitch 5 of your 8 bullpen pitchers in order to finish a game off. You maybe only have to put 2 or 3 out there on the mound, and that makes a huge difference. I also think that the fact that their starting pitching has been good has taken pressure off of the offense. One of the things that we talked about a lot last year was how often the Cubs were giving up first inning or second inning runs and immediately putting the offense in the hole. And I think that was part of what contributed to the breakdown of the Cubs offense last year, among other things. I think that they started to press a lot because they felt like they had to score early. They had to score often because the pitching was going to give up a lead. And I think that definitely affected them. Well, now when they know that, Kyle Hendricks is going to go out and he's going to throw an 81 pitch Maddox shutout of the Cardinals. You know, it takes a lot of pressure off. Hey, we only have to score a couple of runs because we've got our good guys on the mound. And even you, Darvish, last night, you know, he went out. He only threw 5 1/3 innings. He had 11 strikeouts and no walks. And that's the most important part. No walks. He gave up a couple of runs, but you know, I think the Cubs would take that every time. It takes pressure off the offense. So all that to say, I think that the Cubs starting pitching is fine, especially when you consider that their starting 5 has been doing really well, and they still have Mike Montgomery and this pitcher who I really don't recognize, but his name is Tyler Chatwood, but he does not look like the Tyler Chatwood who played for the Cubs last year. This guy throws strikes. He's got nasty stuff. He strikes people out. He gets soft contact. He gets contact on the ground. So I don't know that this is actually Tyler Chatwood.
I was gonna say, no one that I know by the name of Tyler Chatwood actually knows how to pitch.
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is, but all that to say, I don't think that the Cubs need to trade for Madison Bumgarner. The moves that I think the Cubs will make later in the season are going to be moves for the bullpen. Every team has issues in their bullpen, and that's going to be the one place I think where the Cubs identify a need to shore things up. So I don't see them moving for Bumgarner. But the story on Bumgarner is that he did change his no-trade list this year, and if you take a look at coming into this season, and if you take a look at it, it's all teams that were perceived in the offseason to be contenders. And I think that makes sense because those are the teams who are most likely to trade for him. And so I think he wants a little bit of leverage in the process, and having that no trade clause does that. It gives him that leverage. You know, if the Cardinals do want him, they're going to have to sweeten the pot in order for him to waive that clause and go to St. Louis.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah. So speaking of, and this is me being ignorant again because I haven't been able to watch the games, how are you feeling about the Cubs bullpen? I mean, they haven't needed to do too much because y'all's starting pitching has been great, but I thought I heard some people groaning about Carl Edwards Jr. the other day. Something like that. You want to catch me up on what's been going on there? So
since he got back from Iowa, he's been good. And then last night, I mean, he's been throwing strikes. He's been getting guys out. But Joe had only been bringing him in at the beginning of innings, at the start of innings. So the bases were clear. Joe brought him in a dirty inning last night. There were 2 guys on. He promptly gave up a home run. It's becoming increasingly clear that Carl Edwards does not have the mindset to be a high leverage closer. He has the stuff, but he just doesn't have the mental ability to do it. You can't bring him on with runners on base, clearly. And it doesn't seem like you can bring him on in a pressure-packed situation. This is a guy that Cubs fans and the Cubs brass was talking about as a potential closer of the future. And sure, he's got the stuff of a closer, but he hasn't got that mindset. And if he doesn't have the mindset, he's useless. I would rather have somebody who only throws 88 miles an hour but can get guys out and doesn't wilt in the moment than somebody who can throw 100 miles an hour but can't find the strike zone when there's a guy on first base. So Carl Edwards is it's unfortunate because they sent Dylan Maples back down to get to bring Carl Edwards back up, and I understand Dylan Maples has options, and Dylan Maples presents a lot of the same things that Carl Edwards does. Ridiculous stuff when he can find the zone. But he certainly seems to have more of a head for the situation. He doesn't get flustered. There was a game several weeks ago where he walked the bases loaded, and then he proceeded to strike out the side. That's the Dylan Maples. That's the full Dylan Maples experience. But that's something that Carl Edwards couldn't do. If Carl walked the bases loaded, forget it. He's given up runs. He's given up a boatload of runs. And that's something that, if it was me, I would err on the side of youth, and I would give Dylan Maples the opportunity to figure things out. We'll see. I don't know. But the rest of the bullpen, it's interesting because they've made do and they've seen success from a lot of guys who weren't really on anybody's radar. Kyle Ryan has been a revelation this year. Alan Webster has been good. Brandon Kinsler has returned to form, to the Brandon Kinsler he was before. But there are question marks on the horizon. Brandon Morrow suffered a setback and is probably not going to be back before the All-Star break at the earliest.
Jeez.
Pedro Strop is recovering from a hamstring injury, but who knows how long that's going to take. Those are always really touchy injuries. You don't want to rush anybody back from that because you can make things significantly worse if you come back too soon. And you still have Tony Barnett is still rehabbing, although he's supposed to be right on the verge of coming up. So there are a lot of question marks, and what moves they're going to make, who's going to get sent back down, or who's going to be designated for assignment in order to make room for the guys that they're bringing up. So it'd be nice if the Cubs had one more lockdown guy in the bullpen, one guy that you can point to and be like, all right, he's going to get outs. And Craig Kimbrell's still out there, but apparently he is holding out for a multi-year deal. He is not going to accept a one-year deal. It sounds like Dallas Keuchel is open to that, but again, the Cubs don't need starting pitching. They need somebody to solidify that bullpen. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely be interesting.
Yeah, and Aaron, I hope you're right. I hope you guys do get swept by Texas.
I hope not. I don't want that.
Well, hey,
I'm going to be coming back and I'm going to be watching baseball for the first time, and who knows when. It'd be nice to see a win. That'd be great.
Well, you know what? Maybe they'll equal the Cubs' efforts against the Rangers at the beginning of the season, where the Cubs won game 1 and then proceeded to drop the rest of the series.
They're like, one was good enough.
Yeah, it started a 2-7 skid. So
great.
That was not fun.
Always looking up.
And there it is. The Cubs just dropped their first series since April 7th against the Reds.
The Reds. What? So you said the
Reds
pitching is good.
Is better than people expected.
I mean, the Reds in general are better than people expect because whoever expects much from Reds.
They're in last place. They're not good.
Obviously. Well, yeah, this is what I mean. They're the Reds. You shouldn't have to expect anything from them because we can be jerks because, we're in the same division. I'm allowed to say this.
Yes.
So whenever they do anything good, it's like, oh, they can do that? I'm upset. We're not supposed to lose to the Reds. To the Pirates, still disappointing, but fine. The Reds, no.
Well, the Pirates particularly disappointing because right now Chris Archer is on his way to having his worst season ever as a major league player. So
wow, I didn't know that.
I'm sure he'll turn it around, but yeah, he hasn't been good.
Well, while we're talking about other NL Central teams, Christian Yelich is just gonna hit every home run possible, I guess.
No, only in Milwaukee.
Only in Milwaukee.
Yeah, you take a look at his splits in Milwaukee. He's Babe Ruth. Outside of Milwaukee, he's Clark Kent. He is only good in Milwaukee. It's unbelievable how split heavy he is this year.
That's weird.
It's almost like he is selling out for Miller Park.
I mean, he hit two home runs today though, and they're at an away game. So that says something.
Well, that's a surprise. That's a shock.
That's a shock. It's abnormal. I mean, him hitting this many home runs, any baseball player hitting this many home runs is abnormal, but I don't know. He's on a good track. I don't like speaking positively about the Brewers, but I will say that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I got hard, so I will applaud when someone else can. AKA why we're here.
Well, I may be seeing a game up there. I've got my son at the end of the month of July, and the Brewers and the Cubs face off. So we may take a train up and spend the weekend in Milwaukee and catch a game at Miller Park. He seemed pretty excited about that. So
that sounds fun.
Yeah, we'll give Ron a report from the airplane hangar. because that is his. I think it might be his favorite venue for baseball. Anywhere in the world. Oh, he hates it. Hates it. It's fun. It's good to hear him complain about other parks.
Yeah, I wish that I had something to weigh in there. I have been to Wrigley and I have been to Kauffman for the Kansas City Royals. And I believe that's it. So, solid. I've got a nice track list. I've been to the Iowa Cubs Stadium. Does that count? I've been there a few times.
Hey, they've been on fire this year.
I don't know what's going on. You guys aren't supposed to have a good AAA team.
The Cubs this year have have stashed a lot of talent at AAA, so that they can access it quickly for the major league team. So they have a lot more 3A, 4A players this year than they did last year.
Yeah, let's see. They are at 25-16.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They're leading the division. Memphis Redbirds are falling behind at 21-18.
Have you been to any games this year?
I went to the opening day game. And I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember much? Oh, okay.
I don't remember much. I went to their open house and we were able to get free tickets to be able to go. But truthfully, it was so cold. I'm trying to remember what it was. I just remember laughing at Ian Happ a lot. So I was like, you belong here, which is very mean. And applauding Johnny Field because he could hit the baseball. I'm not nice a lot of times.
No, it's fine. I don't understand the Cubs. I don't understand their fascination with Ian Happ. I mean, I get the potential, but you can't. At some point, aren't we supposed to measure production, not potential? And Ian Happ hasn't produced in a long time, so.
Yeah, and he was player of the game because everyone was like, well, obviously he's the one who's played in the MLB. But again, if I didn't know as much about baseball that I do and I were watching that game, he would not have stuck out to me at all, except for he got a piece of the ball a little bit more often than everyone else. And when I say a little bit, I mean he would have been maybe one of 3 players that I would have noticed that were able to get hits. But he wouldn't have stuck out as the only one that could or anything like that. He seemed to fit in really well in AAA, which I know is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. But I don't know. I think that he's right where he needs to be in Iowa.
Yeah, I don't. I personally wouldn't mind seeing him get moved for some bullpen help. Let somebody else unlock his potential because I just don't see it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think anybody would pick him up, like seeing that much potential?
Oh, yeah.
Not to be mean, but just to ask.
Yeah, he'll get picked up.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody will trade.
I have to.
There's too much potential.
Gotcha. Did you see? I have to give a shout out to Tommy LaStella.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I told you guys. I'm gonna hold on to that one. I've been calling it since the beginning. He's a good baseball player, okay?
Nobody said. I was reading Bleacher Nation today, and Brett Taylor made a pretty good point. I think it was Brett who wrote it. He made a really good point about it. Tommy LaStella was never going to be this player in Chicago. He needed to go somewhere else because the Cubs, one, clearly made the determination that his defense wasn't good enough to put him in the lineup on a regular basis. And the defensive metrics bear that out in Los Angeles. He's still not a good defensive second baseman. And the Cubs have better options at second base, defensively and offensively. But to that, then, had he stayed in Chicago, he was going to continue to be the same player that he had been. He was going to be a guy who got spot starts and who was a pinch hitter off the bench. That's not the way to unlock your power potential as a hitter. That's not the way to unlock your potential, period, as a hitter and as a pitcher. And so he needed to go somewhere where he was going to get playing time, where he was going to have the opportunity to, to explore who he could be. So, good for Tommy LaStella. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
He seems like a good teammate from everything that the Cubs players have said about him. And you like to see guys like that have success.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things I'll always remember were the pranks that would happen during the Cubs spring training, where he set up a bounce house in Theo's parking spot or something like that. And then to get back at him, they were saying, okay, call off the prank war. Otherwise, they were going to put his phone number up all the way up on the screen. And then it said, best of luck in Iowa. Absolutely loved that. But yeah, kind of going along with what you're saying, he has more home runs through 38 games than he did in the last 5 seasons combined, which is 11 home runs. And I'm proud of him. He's outside of my jurisdiction now, but I get to kind of check in every once in a while and be like, hey, glad to see you're doing good.
Yep. Yeah, happy to see it for him,
Yeah. Speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I should check to see how Carson Kelly is doing, since he's the other one that is kind of on my radar in that same list where, hey, have you started doing anything yet? And you just kind of poke them to see if there's been any activity.
My recollection from when the Cubs played them recently was that he wasn't doing anything particularly impressive.
That's sad. Oh well. What were you gonna ask?
I was just gonna say it's a tough night for both teams. The Cubs drop it 4-2 to the Reds, and the Cardinals.
No, don't want it.
10-2 to the Braves.
To the Braves. Didn't we
were supposed to be good this year?
Game?
The Braves were supposed to be good this year. They have not been so far. Now, you can always argue that, talent finds its true level. That's certainly the argument that Aaron makes with the Cubs when he told us that the Cubs were going to be fine after that horrendous start. But, the Braves are 23-21 right now. They should be better. And they're only 23-21 because of their performance against the Cardinals this week. So, this was a team that not too long ago was under 500. So the NL East is not good this year, ladies and gentlemen. Not good. Washington made a whole lot of splashes, and they are 18-25. So,
oh no,
yeah, not good. All right, so here you go, Brecklyn. You ask, and I shall deliver. Carson Kelly currently hitting .247, .313 on base percentage, and a .479 slugging. He's got 3 home runs, 11 RBIs in 80 plate appearances over 26 games.
I'm going to give him 3 seasons. That's my prediction. If after 3 seasons he's still not amazing, then I will accept the loss. But I'm holding out. He'll do something. Those are the 2 players I put my bets on.
He's got a 29% caught stealing percentage. It's not terrible.
I mean, it's a percentage.
It is a percentage. It's not terrible.
It means he's done it.
You would like to see it over 30, but it's not terrible.
It's okay. We're all good. No, not to completely backtrack, but I would just like to note that with the Braves, the Cardinals won the first game 14-3, and then apparently really were like okay, that was good enough, and then lost 0-4, and then, as we keep saying, 2-10. I don't know. I wish I had more narrative as to explain what's going on this season, but I don't know.
Really, you could argue they won the series because they outscored the Braves. So
I mean, that's true.
Right? The Braves scored 17 runs. The Cardinals scored maybe they did this. What'd you say the second game was?
0-4.
Oh yeah, no, they lost the series. Sorry, I was trying to find a silver lining. I guess they're just.
We were trying.
It must be tough.
I mean, I appreciate the effort. Very nice. Huh.
I'm trying to sympathize.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Y'all can keep you and all your Cubs problems, and we'll try to figure out baseball. The Cubs have baseball going pretty well for them, but then a bunch of other discussions not involving baseball plaguing them. The Cardinals are doing okay on all like that front,
Yep.
but the baseball part of it is pretty lacking. So I'll stick with the let's fix our players, and you stick with your fixing your players. So
sounds good. All right. What do you think? Anything else you want to add?
Not necessarily. Hopefully I'll be back with more opinions next week. I missed, being around and talking to you.
Yep. And hopefully Elliot will be back. And I hope he doesn't get too drunk tonight with Daddy Dewey. And maybe we'll do a show next week. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Next week's good. We're good. 2 weeks from now. I'm out.
I was going to say, I just came back and then you're going to run away again so quickly. I didn't know I'd scare you off. So,
well, you know what I do. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I work as a student activities director in a very large high school. And our prom is one of the latest, if not the latest, proms in the Chicagoland area. We do ours on the very last day of testing at the school. So this year it's on Thursday, June 30th, and we always do it on a Thursday. So we bus 1,000 kids down to Navy Pier in Chicago, and then after prom is done, we then walk them down the pier and put them on 2 boats because one boat is not big enough. And we get home at about 4:30 in the morning. So it's an endurance test for me, but it also means that I can't do a show on that Thursday. So
let me just give you a little background. We went to the YMCA for my prom. I was one of a class of 96. Only juniors and seniors are allowed, which how prom happens. We don't have a destination prom. Like going to Navy Pier, that sounds amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
It sounds very fun. Here in Little Town, Iowa, where I had my prom, it is up to the juniors to be able to decorate half of the gymnasium. The other half is used for scatterball for when you actually do have those class periods. There's different groups that are able to plan and make the scenery for the prom. The school doesn't actually do anything other than coordinate the groups and make sure that they are using that money for prom and Subway when we get away with it. And let's see, prom ends up happening to where you go to pre-prom at the hospital, take a big old group picture right there in the lobby. You go to actual prom in that half of the gym. You then go to after prom at the YMCA, or if someone is generous enough, the auction barn that somebody has donated for the night. Yeah, it's real fun. There's a photo booth sometimes, like not one where it takes the photos for you. You got to ask your friends, but you get the props. And then you go back to the high school where hopefully it's the hypnotist and Mr. Pancake Man who will throw pancakes at you across the commons. So it was fun. I liked it. I didn't realize that people had destination proms like that. Like, I want to go on a boat. That sounds great. Can I come to the prom?
I might need additional chaperones. You'll just have to go through a background check.
Okay, so long as I get to wear the big poofy sparkly dress that I wore once.
Knock yourself out.
Perfect. See you then.
All right, with that. We will be back next week, though, when we're not live on Facebook at Team Arrivals Podcast. You can find us online at teamarrivalspodcast.com. We're on Twitter at Team Arrivals Pod and on Instagram at Team Arrivals Podcast. You can contact us by email at the show at teamarrivalspodcast.com. On Twitter, you can find Elliot at TOR_Elliot. Ron's still lurking out there. Every once in a while, he pops his head up. So why not send him a shout out at TOR_Ron75. Brecklyn, once she finishes moving in, you'll be able to find her again on Twitter at
Carry On Cards, spelled. Yeah, funny about that. Carey, like my last name, because I'm very funny.
If you are listening to us after the fact, why not give Radio Public a try? Radio Public is a free platform that throws a couple of pennies our way every time you listen. Otherwise, you can catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Podcasts. And you know the whole thing about Zazzle, but nobody cares. All right, Brecklyn, it's good to see you again. I'm glad that you've made it through the gauntlet and that you're all ready to start law school. Yes? Outstanding. Very good.
To be determined. But yeah, All
Very
right.
good. All right, kiddo,
Okay.
you rest up. Get caught up on baseball. We'll call Daddy Dewey and tell him to leave Elliot alone on Thursdays, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds great. We'll see you then. Bye.